With the wholesale regulation change and the rebirth of Formula One in 2021, this season is more about evolution than revolution. That said, this year's Formula One cars should be the fastest in history. Esteban Ocon makes his F1 comeback after losing his seat when Force India were taken over at the end of 2018. He joins Daniel Ricciardo at Renault in one of the most highly regarded lineups on the grid, and his challenge will be to show he's just as competitive as his race-winning teammates.
So excited! It's just fantastic times, to getting back into competition. It's feels like ages, but everything went so quick. I had to be very, very involved, of course, last year in all the discussions and everything that was going on. I signed, and then straight away I was into testing and getting ready for this year.
Nicholas Latifi replaces Robert Kubica at Williams to form an exciting young lineup. The Canadian arriving as the Formula 2 vice-champion, and will have to prove himself against the talented George Russell, who did a supreme job in 2019. So generally, there's stability, but where it gets really interesting is the driver market for 2021. Just 4 drivers, Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez, and crucially Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, have their futures sorted beyond the end of this season. That means every team in the pit lane has a vacancy for 2021. Pat Fry switches from McLaren to Renault as chassis technical director, and Dirk de Beer has moved from Williams as head of aerodynamics. Simone Resta has left Alfa Romeo to oversee Ferrari's 2021 project, and McLaren's Andrea Stella has been promoted to racing director. Big changes also at Williams, who, as mentioned, lost their head of aerodynamics Dirk de Beer to Renault, but strengthened their technical team by bringing in Red Bull's Dave Warner as chief designer, and Renault's Jonathan Carter as deputy chief designer and head of design. Vietnam and Zandvoort have joined the calendar. Vietnam for the first time with a brand new 5.6-kilometre circuit in Hanoi, featuring sections deliberately designed to ape the best parts from other great circuits. Zandvoort marks its return to the Formula One calendar, where legions of Max Verstappen fans will descend to create an epic atmosphere at this newly renovated track, which features a banked turn at a gradient of 34%, which is twice as steep as Indianapolis. Lewis Hamilton could break many records in 2020, but Kimi Räikkönen is also about to rewrite the history books. If he starts just 10 races in 2020, he will take Rubens Barrichello's record for the most number of Grand Prix started. Michael Schumacher, of course, holds the record for the most number of championships at 7 and the most number of Grand Prix wins at 91, and Lewis Hamilton could match those in 2020. His Mercedes team gunning for what would be a record 7th consecutive Constructors' Championship. Last season, 9 out of the 20 F1 drivers exceeded their allocation of MGUKs. So for 2020, and with a longer calendar, they've been allowed 3, which brings it in line with MGU-H, turbocharger and internal combustion engine. Air ducts used to cool the brakes are now categorised as listed parts, meaning they'll need to be designed by the teams themselves rather than bought in from another company or team, alongside the car's bodywork, roll structures, front impact structures and the survival cell. And stewards are to be given more jurisdiction to relax penalties, so anyone missing the weighbridge will not be mandated to start from the pit lane, and drivers that jump the start can be punished by less harsh 5 and 10-second race time penalties, rather than a drive-through or stop and go.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
After taking their 6th Constructors' and Drivers' Championship on the bounce in 2019, Mercedes are once again looking like championship favourites in 2020. Pre-season testing has shown that they have speed, and also they're still bringing ingenuity. Their DAS steering system very much being the talk of the paddock. Ferrari, meanwhile, their pre-season hasn't been straightforward. Mattia Binotto insisting they're not sandbagging.
We're not playing game. I think that's our true performance at the moment. How bad or how good it is, I think it's only on the first 2-3 races that we'll have a clearer picture. But no, the pressure is there. The pressure should be seen as a motivation and not a drama.
Red Bull, on the other hand, seem to have it all under control. They've shown speed and reliability, and some suspect they could be knocking on Mercedes' door for a fight for the World Championship from the off, as they need to hit the ground running in Australia. McLaren have their eyes set on 4th place in the championship, which of course they took in 2019. Their winter has been quiet but methodical, and there's a real sense of confidence down there that they might have closed the gap on the top 3. Racing Point hit the headlines over the winter when they launched a car which looked very similar to last year's Mercedes, albeit pink. It has been fast, ultra fast in pre-season testing, and crucially it's been reliable. Their drivers cannot wipe the smiles off their face. Renault arrived into the season with a launch that didn't have a car. When we got to testing, we knew why. The front end, very different, not just to last year, but to anyone else in the sport. They have to be fighting for the top positions in the midfield battle if they want to hang on to Daniel Ricciardo into 2021.
If we cannot do better in the current set of regulations, there is no reason why we will be able to do that better in the next set of regulation. We need to think about the future. We've got a great lineup this year. That's where I want to focus, but we need to make sure that it's sustainable.
Alfa Romeo had an exemplary pre-season, but they looked reliable and at times topping the times. Impressive lap counts, they seem ready for 2020 and to take that midfield battle to their rivals. Toro Rosso have rebranded as Alpha Tauri, so named for Red Bull's clothing brand. They'll be hoping to maintain the incredible momentum that they showed at the end of 2019 into 2020. Haas are back to their original colours and they hope back to competitive form. They struggled last year with a very narrow operating window on their car, struggling with tyre wear all the way through the season. But pre-season testing in 2020 suggests they may have got over those issues. And Williams, a new driver in Nicholas Latifi, the only rookie in the field. Crucially, a car that was on track and working well from the very start. They were the first car out on track.
I mean, if we're gonna do it, we've got to do it properly. So when I saw him lining up, I thought, you cheeky bugger, but I thought, I'm not going to let him get me off the line. So made sure I was in first gear and ready to go. There's
a feeling, both in the paddock and at the team, that 2020 will see a turnaround from the terrible fortune that they suffered in 2019. A fascinating fight lies in store. With everything on the line, records to be broken and history to be made, you can catch it all here. Don't miss a thing.